Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabell of hardlensmedia. We are here at UE Hall. I'm joined here today with Tara Brown. She's one of the main organizers for Socialist Alternative. And so, Tara, thank you so much for joining us. For our viewers and subscribers, we've covered Socialist Alternative in the past, but tell us right now, what is the real impact and main goal that Socialist Alternative plans to do for the long run as these election cycles like 2018 and 2020 keep on, ever getting closer to American voters to proceed and get involved in?
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of people are looking towards the 2018 elections, the 2020 elections as our path forward to fighting back against Trump and fighting back against the vicious attacks that have been put onto working class people. I think that, yes, like we should use elections as a way to push our movements forward, but ultimately it should be a part of a working class movement, part of building the momentum to create the biggest fight back we can against corporate interests and the likes of Donald Trump. I think that we can use elections as a tool in creating a stronger notice of our movements and a stronger way to use those movements effectively. But I wouldn't say that by any means should we sit and wait for 2018 or sit and wait for 2020. I think that we can see that these attacks are happening now. We must address them now, and it should be done through an organized, united mass movement to fight back against these injustices. So.
Now, the 2016 presidential election cycle still remains fresh in a lot of Americans' minds, especially with Bernie Sanders and how corporate media was portraying his campaign and the word socialism. And as we push forward, a lot of people are curious on what socialism is, the ideals of it. There's democratic socialism, etc. But essentially, what are the misconceptions that people think when they hear the word socialism? Because they think about something way back during the Cold War, like in that kind of time, in that kind of frame.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people, as you are saying, like think about the Cold War, think about these ideas of socialism that were in a framework where there wasn't a complete change in how we view society on the whole. I don't think that we can develop socialism within a small pocket. I think it needs to be an international fight. It needs to be a fight that includes the international working class. So we're actually, Socialist Alternative does fight in that way. We're a part of an organization called the Committee for Workers International, and we fight back against capitalism and fight for a socialist world throughout the world, using the same tactics and methods and being able to draw those lessons to be able to fight the most effectively. And I think that's the reason that we've been able to be so effective, the reason that we've been able to elect a city council member in Seattle, Shama Sawant, in 2013, and then get her reelected. And that's largely the same exact way in which we're attempting to get a city council member elected in Minneapolis as well, using the same methods with an understanding that it's going to take an international struggle, an international fight back against capitalism to win.
Now, currently here in the United States and by state level, third parties have a very difficult time getting on the ballot or getting on the debate stage, especially with the influence of money in politics and how the two parties really control the election cycle and who gets really put onto the ballot. So effectively, why should Americans look at third parties and maybe Socialist Alternative, for example, as a solution away from the Democrat and Republicans?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that when we think about the 2016 elections, for example, we saw so much momentum around Bernie Sanders, so many people really excited about the program that he was talking about, the policies that he was talking about. But ultimately, that got stomped while working within that structure. If Bernie Sanders during that time were to have called for an independent party, I think we really instantly would have seen the mass support that he had be willing and interested in organizing outside of the Democratic Party to fight for a party that would truly represent independently working class people. We didn't see that, but I think that intention still exists, that momentum still exists in being interested in fighting for something beyond what the Republican or Democratic Party are interested in providing for us. Right now, I mean, we can look at Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill. There's a lot of momentum around that, but that exists because there was already a large mass movement for those same things that in many ways was inspired by Bernie Sanders, but continues to exist. We continue to see an interest in fighting for that, as well as fighting for example, for affordable housing. That's definitely an issue here in Chicago, an issue across the country, certainly in Minneapolis as well. So if we can take these issue-based interests and struggle and use those and connect them to fighting for an alternative party that can truly fight for those things, I think that we can win.
Now, of course, here in Chicago, there's a huge problem with gentrification as well as large real estate developers moving into the city. Effectively, will Socialist Alternative be working with other groups that are trying to protect the low-income minority communities that are being displaced? And essentially, what will really be needed to protect those communities and people from gentrification as well as displacement?
Sure. Yeah, we have worked with many different organizations here in Chicago. I think that affordable housing absolutely is on the minds of a lot of people, and we want to build the movements that would be necessary in order to really fight for that. At this stage, I think that right now we're running a city council member in Minneapolis, Jentzen, whose primary platform is fighting for rent control. If we win rent control in Minneapolis, that spreads. The same way that $15 minimum wage spread across the country, we're going to see the same with rent control. I think that that's one thing that I would point to as a strong path forward. But even by having these conversations, by taking the question of rent control and putting it on a larger platform, we're creating the basis that we need to be able to fight more effectively. I know there's organizations that are out there already that are talking about rent control, fighting for rent control. We want to be a part of that movement for sure.
All right, well, that's a perfect note to end it on. Thank you so much for joining Hardlens Media. Peace, everyone.
You're watching Hard Lens Media.